Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tama Gocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satgurum Pranatosmyaham. Have you thought about a one-line sentence or a one-line mantra or a short saying that you can use to help yourself when caught up in one of these koshas? I wonder if you have one, because you know how it is when moments happen, how quickly we get sucked in. And I'm curious if all of this has led to that one statement that's personal for you that will help you quickly, though experiencing that pang or joy or whatever it is, it will help you just put things in perspective. Does anyone have one? Not mine. Ishvara. Soham.
I am the whole.
I am the whole. Beautiful.
Neti neti.
Yeah? Neti neti, okay. Na iti, na iti. Not this, not this. Yeah, so we need to take something home. This is what's called practice. Common question is, how do I assimilate this knowledge in my life? This is the question that helps you do that. So let's go to verse 52. What is the Vijnanamaya kosha? Buddhi buddhindriyaihi sardham savrtihi kartr lakshanaha Vijnanamaya koshaha syat pumsaha samsara karanam. The buddhi with its thought modifications and the organs of perception is the Vijnanamaya kosha, which is of the nature of the doer and the cause of samsara for the person, cause of entanglement. Cognitive capacity. When you think of 2 plus 2 equals 4. Now, of course, 2 plus 2 equals 4, that's not really the cognitive capacity, is it? Because you learned that in high school. So that's memory. But if I say 321 plus 11, are you thinking? Yeah. Okay. So notice how it has a different flavor from 2 plus 2 equals 4. 9 by 9 equals 81. 5 equals 25. 7 by 7 equals 49. See, it's all memory because we learned this in high school. But the moment you have to think unique for the first time, it has activating the Vijnanamaya kosha. It activates. And so it's analysis, any kind of working things out, coming things to terms, forming a conclusion, taking the right direction, deciding. That's a Vijnanamaya kosha. It also has the memory in it. I know we also said memory is part of the Manomaya kosha. However, the Vivekachudamani is unique. It mixes things up. It says, it's not only there, it's also here. That way you're not so rigid with your categorization. So it also says the memory. And what is memory for? Storing past information. Why is it there? For expediency. We need to get things done very quickly. You don't have time to work things out every single time. Just, this is what's happened before, this is what's going to happen today, let's go. Okay? So memory is also the reason why you can never truly be in the now. Be in the now. Okay, I'm in the now. But look at this. Even to be in the now, you're accessing memory, what it means to sit down in the chair and not move so that you can be in the now. You can't ever truly be in the now. Because if you say, no, I know someone's going to throw an objection. No, there's only now. The true now is awareness. You cannot objectify awareness. That's the true now. So the now that you experience is not really in the now. By the time you think of now or experience the now, a couple of milliseconds are already gone. Let's be in the now. Right now, I'm sitting down with my back erect. That's happening so quickly that it just bypasses you. It took a couple of milliseconds, picoseconds, to access what it means to sit down with a back straight. But anyway, that's just to clarify this whole idea of being in the now. It's a good concept and it's useful for mindful practices, but the true now is who you are. And that is not something that you can experience. We said an experience is just an object, but you are not an object. You are that in whose presence experiences take place. Then it says Vijnana Maya as the I thought. Look at this. Again, what do we say about Manomaya Kosha? Where's the I thought? In the Manomaya Kosha. Now it says the I thought, the Ahamkara, is in the Vijnana Maya Kosha. So, in fact, this is what most texts say. Where is the Ahamkara? They say it's in the Buddhi, or the Vijnana Maya Kosha. The cognitive capacity, the intellect. And what about this I thought? We said it's the most stable. So if there's one stable thought that one has throughout the day, it is that one I thought. But it's not really stable completely, is it? It's stable, but it fluctuates slightly because it always expands and contracts depending on what it's associated to. Remember that argument? Yeah. So that's what your I thought does. And Vijnana Maya Kosha is the center where this I thought is stored. So in that sense, everything becomes centered around I thought, everything around the Vijnana Maya Kosha. Because that's where your I thought is. Therefore, what does this Vijnana Maya Kosha do? Constantly strategizes. How do I get this? How do I get more? How do I get less? How do I get her? How do I discard him? How do I get more of that? Always working things out because it mistakes itself as that I, that relative ahamkara. And this I thought changes. For one moment, it's honest. Did you ever have felt honest? Next moment, you felt dishonest. For example, I was dishonest, and then I felt bad about it, and now I decided to be honest next time. Now, what happened when it was a dishonest I? What came along with it? What came attached with that dishonest I? An emotion. Usually guilt or some kind of a, pulling inside. Oh, I did something wrong. And then the I got honest. That means the honest I displaced the dishonest I. The dishonest I went away. It gave space to the honest I. Now the honest I is at the forefront of the mind. And what comes with the honest I? An emotion. Again, an emotion, as we said, the mind, right? This honest I maybe goes like this, very ugly, right? And then a honest I, maybe something beautiful, something that's just pretty to look at. Okay? And you don't control this. This is all Ishwara's design. It's a law. When I go off track, when I fall off track, when I don't do the right thing, automatically, you don't have to say, okay, therefore, now that I've been dishonest, let's find guilt and put it onto me. It happens automatically. So on one hand, yes, it is a confusing world. But on the other hand, in this confusing world, you have a feedback system that's always guiding you to the right place. And depending on your willingness to listen, because listening is not always easy, is it? In the Veda, we have two paths. One is Preyaha and Shreyaha. Preyaha is the easy, straight. I just go easy, straight, expedient. And that's what everyone takes. In English, we call this the path of least resistance. Shreyaha is the hard right. And that's not easy. You have to just, get off the highway and take the hard right. It's unsafe there, and there's probably no GPS. It's a little bit, tricky, but it leads you to the right path. And so why do we not follow the rules? despite our cognitive analysis telling us this is the right thing to be done, because of expediency, path of least resistance, easy, quick, least amount of effort. We don't, as human beings, we don't like to do effort a lot. That's why in marketing or sales, if you want to convince a customer, very simply, you say how to make lots of money quickly and easily. These two words, quickly and easily, they work like magic. I use that a lot my younger years as a copywriter. And it works. People love it. Oh, quickly and easily I'm going to make a lot of money. Quickly and easily I'm going to lose weight. Quickly and easily I'm going to attain moksha. Quickly and easily I'm going to be some special character in this world. But quickly and easily is not how it is, because the flower, though beautiful, doesn't grow quickly and easily. It goes through much, gets attacked, it gets sometimes bumped onto, it undergoes terrible weather and ice falling, and yet it still grows, but not quickly and easily. Everything beautiful and worthwhile takes effort, and it's not quick. In fact, the quicker and easier it is, the less qualitative it most likely is. The slower, the more stable, the more reliable it is, and the more in control you are there at every step of the way. So which one do you want? Quickly and easily, tempting, or hard and slow and heavy and effortful? Which one? Test. So number one or number two? Depends on the end, of course. It always depends, yeah. But in overall, which one would you? Can you see the benefit of the last one at least? Slow but stable. Just like a relationship, quick flick, overnight, one night stand. Next day, regret and all this, and I have to carry that whole memory for the rest of your life, feeling dirty. Or stable and slow. No. You're just one more piece of, loaded up bag of flesh and bone and blood and feces. No. Okay, it's just going to be friction, and then that's going to evaporate the next day. And so through this analysis, you have a much better life, because though it's, you don't probably reward yourself so much, but you don't suffer those aftermath moments that come from quickly and easily. So again, as Navya made a point, there's always a plus and minus to everything. Okay, the next feature of the Vijnanamaya is it's a kartar lakshanaha. So it's a decision maker. Did you ever feel the sensation, or what's it like to be a decision maker? I am a decision maker. I made a few numbers, I punched a few numbers in, made some calculations, and I have decided what is to be done. I am an excellent decision maker. I know how to lead, and I know how to decide, and I know what's the right thing to do. I am totally identified with Vijnanamaya Kosha right now. So what is Vijnanamaya Kosha? It is that sense of I am deciding. Whenever you say, I made a decision, in that moment, your I is as good as Vijnanamaya Kosha. Decided to get married or not married, Vijnanamaya Kosha. Decide what to eat after this, Vijnanamaya Kosha. In fact, we don't decide here, but you will decide at the on your way back. Often we call it the executor, decision maker, the one that executes, the one that forms an outcome, the one that presents before it an option and then selects. It's the selector. I am a selector, an option chooser. How many other words can you do for this? Huh? Commander. I am the commander, the general. See, often they use this dur, but that's overused nowadays. So that's why I avoid these words. And that's why I say you are the one who is there taking charge of things, which is okay, it's necessary, absolutely. But at the same time, remember that decision maker that executor, that commander, that one who initiates things, that's always a function of the Vijnanamaya kosha. How do you put together this sense data plus the mind plus Vijnanamaya kosha? Okay, so here how it goes. So right now you see sense data. It's entering your eyes and sounds are entering the ears. It's going to the mind. The mind has now shaped exactly what this looks like in the form of this face. That's what your mind looks like. So you're not really seeing the face over here. Where are you seeing the face? Yeah, isn't that amazing how we perceive things? And of course, you're now adding your likes and dislikes. So you're slightly distorting my face. You know, maybe there's a little horn there. You know, a smile. Okay. So this happens to everyone. You can't completely be free of distortions. In other words, we always add our own little kind of storylines. So it's like that. And now you say, okay, so now this fella is speaking to me with a smiley face. Is that a smiley? No. What do I do with this information? So now Vijnanamaya kosha is deciding what do I do with the words that are forming in my mind. I can't really turn this into a word, but imagine it's a word. So Vijnanamaya is choosing what to do with the words. How does this apply to my life? And when it says my life, what is my life referring to? See, the irony here is it's referring to the koshas, which we are negating. So all of this information is applying to that which I'm not, but it's required to be applied onto it so that later on I can free myself from it. That's how the teaching works. It's almost like you're spending all this time learning about these things only to realize, so all these things are, they're not necessary. They're just tools. So you need the body-mind to be healthy in order to understand that you're not the body-mind. So you got scammed. You were working very hard. You were clearing up your mind all this life doing sadhana. And then the teacher says, okay, now let's move on to section 3. Let's dismiss all this pure, beautiful, shiny instrument that you have developed for 20 years. You go, oh my God, why did I spend all my time? You didn't. It was necessary. And that's how the journey works. So the Vedanta is that one place where you don't now take this lovely instrument and go, oh, look, I'm so great, because that's just going to reinforce the identity. It's that one teaching where you need to develop a wonderful instrument in order to use that wonderful instrument to recognize I am not this wonderful instrument. Where does all of the conclusions about reality, where do they form? Is it in the Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, or Vijnanamaya? Where? In the Buddhi, in Vijnanamaya. So if the conclusion about reality is in the Vijnanamaya, then where do I have to enter the knowledge that opposes those wrong conclusions? In the Vijnanamaya kosha. Which is why the truth is not about feeling, because where is feeling? In which kosha is that in? Manomaya. So if the conclusion that 2 plus 2 equals 10, if that is wrong, and it's not a matter of feeling, you don't feel 2 plus 2 equals 10. It's a conclusion in the Vijnanamaya. Therefore, I have to educate that Vijnanamaya kosha. 2 plus 2 is not 10, it is 4. In that same way, the reality which I perceive as one big snake, it's not a snake. So I have to negate the notion of a snake. And where do I negate it? Inside your Vijnanamaya kosha. If you take, for instance, a ornament, a ring that has for a long time thought of itself as a ring, okay? And it spoke of itself as a ring. It dated other rings. It rolled on the ground because that's its identity. I am the one who rolls on the ground. It gets worn on fingers, and it enjoys its place in this world. So it has this sort of a functional reality to it. So now the ring looks at itself as a ring, right? That's what it is. It's round and it's so much, wide. So what does this ring have to do now? When we say it has to discover its truth, what does that mean? The ring has to negate what it's not and understand what it is. Now, when it understands what it is it putting a new understanding, something new that it doesn't already have? No. It's understanding its truth. What is the truth of the ring? The gold. So now if you apply this example to the buddhi, your buddhi is like that ring. The buddhi's substance is nothing but awareness. So what we're doing here is we're first saying, no, look, that ring. So what are we doing now? We're negating the ring. We're saying, no, you are not the ring. We're not even talking about the gold right now. We're just saying you're not the ring. You're not this buddhi. You're not this manomaya. Later we will talk about the substance. But for now, I just have to look at myself as the ring and say, I am not this decision maker. I am not this outcome, producer, this executor, this general. I am not that. That's just a function of the ring, of the buddhi. Do you see how the teaching works? Verse 53. The reflection of consciousness. Anuvrajat chit pratibimba shaktihi vijnana sanjnaha prakritehe vikaraha jnana kriyavan aham iti ajasram. Deha indriya adishu abhimanyate brisham. Prakriti is the material cause of the universe. Changing material cause of the universe. We'll talk about this later, but for now, it's the material cause. Cause. What kind of material cause? Parinami. Parinami means material cause that's changing. So, like the gold. Imagine a gold that's changing. And depending on what it changes into, it will form a certain form. From this Prakriti, we have billions of Vijnanamaya koshas that get formed. Yours is one of them. But instead of putting billion here, I'll put maybe 3. Okay. So from Prakriti, from the material cause, we have 3 Vijnanamaya koshas. Otto's Vijnanamaya kosha, Andre's, and Yatri's. So we got 3 manifest from the material cause. Now, using the whiteboard behind is all pervasive. So imagine this whiteboard is in all directions. No ending. And we'll provisionally use that whiteboard as all pervasive consciousness. So you can't kind of see edges now, because to see edges, it's not all pervasive, but it's just all pervasive. So now the consciousness, if it's everywhere, pervading all Vijnanamaya koshas, within the boundary of a single Vijnanamaya kosha, that much consciousness, that much is called reflected consciousness. So what's another name for reflected consciousness? A better word is confined consciousness. But is consciousness actually confined if it's all pervasive? No. But from the standpoint of one Vijnanamaya kosha, it's confined. As though confined. That's why I put the word as though. Just to remind you, it's not actually confined. But when I don't know that it's as though confined, for me, who is all consciousness, all pervasive consciousness, who am I? Reflected consciousness. Because why? I see myself as a confinement. I see myself as a pocket of consciousness. This is why we have Sankhya and Vishishta Dvaita that will say that every jiva has a pocket of consciousness. So another example for this is we'll take a cup. We have all pervasive space. The space inside this cup you can call confined space. Another name for it will be reflected space. Better word, confined space. Simple. So now, when all pervasive consciousness, which knows itself as I, one limitless being, when it manifests within the boundaries of one Vijnanamaya kosha, that one who says I am is called a jiva. Now the jiva, as we said in our couple of sessions ago, is the one who carries themselves as a boundary-full entity. I am a bound entity. I am this much. This is me right here. And this entity is a traveler. So this entity, when it drops the physical body upon death, then this Vijnanamaya kosha travels to a new physical body. And then the physical body, after 80 years, dies again, or whatever, 90 years nowadays. And then again, the Vijnanamaya kosha still, or another name for it is reflected consciousness, travels into another body. And this jiva, or Vijnanamaya kosha, or ahamkara, or confined consciousness, or reflected consciousness, put it all into one single term. We'll just call it jiva. This jiva can travel eternally like this. Another way we say is this reflected consciousness travels eternally. Why? Because it is mixed up with Vijnanamaya kosha. And Vijnanamaya kosha is the one that's always moving, isn't it? It moves from one place to the other. Like right now, my buddhi, my intellect is here. Look at this. It's here. Now it's here. So who travels? The reflected consciousness. Another name for it is jiva. So what happens now is you have to release this jiva from this Vijnanamaya kosha. And how do you release? How do you release this? How do you negate this upadhi? By simply identifying. Oh, good. How do you release the jiva? How do you release the self, which is all pervasive, from this reflection, from this upadhi? How do you do that? Loud. Namaha, not mine. Good. So in other words, you get to know the features, which is why we're being so detailed. Because the intellect is so good at picking out exceptions. Even after I cover all these koshas, what the intellect does is, he hasn't included intuition, and therefore it's intuition. Yeah, but he hasn't mentioned, give me one more word. He hasn't mentioned clairvoyance. Therefore, that's, not part of the koshas. It always finds something. That's what the intellect does. So we have to be sort of very clear so that you don't end up going home and then some other teacher says something and then your mind instantly goes on to that, and then you exclude that from the koshas, but it's also another thing within the koshas, within this traveling being. So you have to completely release yourself from the Vijnanamaya by recognizing its features so that you no longer fall for it. And then keep on reminding once in a while. Not mine. Yeah, it's great to think and great to be an inquirer. Even the inquirer, that's the last detachment that one has to relinquish oneself from. Because what do we say? I am an inquirer. I'm a self-inquirer. Yeah. And even the inquirer is nothing but the Vijnanamaya kosha. Because the inquirer is a thinker. So that's the last detachment one has to free oneself from. Now this reflection, this jiva, a better name is a jiva, it undergoes 3 roles while it travels. And you tell me if you can relate to this. It takes 3 roles. One is the decision maker. We'll call this the karta, the bhokta. That means you take the role of an enjoyer. Like after the break, we will be enjoying ourselves a little bit, yeah? We'll go into the beach. That's called an enjoyer. So what has this jiva done? It's taken the role of enjoyer. Now, when it comes back and it says, I have to go to class, then it takes the role of a decision maker. And then it also takes the role of a knower. That means the one who is engaged in inquiry, the inquirer. So all day long, I'm a little bit of an inquirer, a little bit of a decision maker, a little bit of an enjoyer, again an enjoyer, a decision maker, an inquirer, so three main roles. Now, which of these three main roles, which of one of these roles is there consistently for you? When are you ever an enjoyer consistently? No. Therefore, what are those three rules? Anything that is not consistent, is changing. Anything that is perceived, anything that is dependent upon something else is not I. Is your decision maker? Are you always deciding every single second what to do? No. So if the decision maker was you, that would mean what? When the decision maker leaves, you would leave along with it. When the enjoyer leaves, the happy one, then you too would go along with it. No, you don't. You remain the presence in whose presence three of these roles are undergoing constant modification. That presence remains. Verse 54 and 55. Anadi kalaha ayam aham svabhavaha jivaha samasta vyavahara vodha karoti karmani api purva vasanaha punyani apunyani chattat palani Bhunkte vichit rasu api yonishu vrajan ayati niryati adhaha urdvam eshaha asya eva vijnanamayasya jagrat swapna adi avasthaha sukha dukkha bhogaha. Okay, so this Vijnanamaya, whose beginning cannot be determined, has the I sense due to the identification with the body and is the jiva. We just explained that. It's the carrier of all activities. Having the impressions of the previous karmas ingrained, she performs punya karmas and papa karmas. He enjoys their results in various bodies, above and below. Moving in various bodies, he comes down and goes up. For this Vijnanamaya, that means the jiva, alone, are the three states of experience of waking, dreaming, and sleep, and the experience of joy and sorrow. So as we described, this Vijnanamaya kosha is the traveling being. Sometimes some people will call it the soul. We don't use the word soul in Vedanta. It is misleading, and there are too many cliches or too many terms added onto the word soul. But you will hear the word soul a lot. So here, what is the word soul? In this example, it is the traveler, the subtle body, the Vijnanamaya kosha. And according to the verse, what gives various capacities to this traveler? It's past causes. They're determined by past actions. And since when have these past actions been done by this traveler? There was no beginning. They were always doing something at some time, at some place. That means suppose we're all now in the next life, and I have the same conversation with you, and I'm talking about you are a traveler, and I say you're a traveler, and the reason why you're in this class, remember I'm saying this next life, the reason why you're in this class right now is because your last life you have done actions that were inquirers, that were thoughtful, that were conducive for spiritual growth. You may not remember it, but I can guarantee you there is some connection between this life and the previous. And you're listening and going, I don't, I can't see it. I don't remember anything. Where is it? And I say, I know you can't, but in the universe where there is a cause-effect relationship, you cannot find one thing in this universe, an effect that doesn't have a preceding cause, a connection to somewhere in the past, whether seen or unseen. And then you might accept my argument, you might reject it, and then I'll tell you, you know what, it doesn't really matter, just keep on listening and we'll hopefully, sort ourselves out. And so you kind of like say, wow, so, if I cannot find one effect, one life, one jiva, one personality, one quality, because that's just one thing, it's one effect. If I can't find one thing in this universe without a preceding cause, then it stands to reason there must be some reason why I am in this class now. And to whom am I giving that message to? To the one who hasn't quite sorted out the problem in the last life, so now they get a new chance. And this is how the system is designed. Otherwise, imagine this. Okay, suppose we take this karma out, this past life. So what does this mean? You're a sincere person, you want the truth, and someone, car crash, irresponsible driver, and, right, death. Does that sound fair? So you've been, all your life, you've been working hard, you've been sincere, you really prayed, Lord, please, I want this truth more than anything. The person goes out, and someone, car crash. And then you have an irresponsible person, a loud noisemaker, and they just sort of fly through life and there's no consequences. Does that sound like a reasonable, well thought through system to you? No. That would be a creator who has no idea what. In fact, a human being would have more rationale than that creator. Because it's clearly right from our standpoint that a person who works hard deserves a reward. And so, like this jiva says is the carrier of all actions, which are both punya and papam. Punya means good actions, that means meritorious, aligned actions, harmonious, and papam are those misaligned actions. So they're a carrier of all of these past impressions. That means impressions like your habits and your whether you're a thinker or how well you're able to sort things out and figure things out. All of that personality is a product of those past actions that jiva has done already. And so they take those impressions and then they find a suitable body. And what kind of a body do they need? They need a body that perfectly matches the kind of punya and papam that they have based on the account. And for that, they need a world, a higher world, a lower world, or somewhere in between. Sometimes they need a heaven. That means a lot of punyam. A lower world, like an animal or a plant, you can call that papam if you want. And somewhere in between, that's where you and I are. That's the earth. So the jiva needs to find a suitable body, and they travel from body to body, experiencing the fruits of their past actions, and sometimes those fruits are unpleasant, but the jiva still has to use their buddhi and say, what do I do with what I've got? I can't just complain. I'm still given this manushyatvam, the status of a human being, and I have to make the most use of it. So, and consequently they go through sukha dukkha, suffering, pain. So the question now is, why is this body going through suffering and pain based on what I said? Yeah, past unseen causes. So now again, when you see someone going through pain or a life, how do you explain that? Besides psychology, childhood conditioning, and grown up and so on, how does Vedanta explain that? Past unseen causes. It's simple as that. Okay. And this jiva is the experiencer of the three states. Yeah, we talked about this. So they go through, okay, this is interesting. So where do you experience your karma pala, karma past actions? Where do you experience the results of past actions? In your deep sleep? No. In the waking and the dream. That's why we can have a nightmare. Some people can't sleep, and when they go to dream, you can have a whole world of nightmare come through. But mostly it happens in the waking state. And the reason why you have a deep sleep state is because if you didn't, what would happen? It would be too much for the jiva to bear. It will be too distracting, like this listening all day long. So then you say, I just want some sleep. And then when you wake up after sleep, what happens? You're fresh. You forgot about the sound. Ice cream man, right? So that's why sleep is also there. It's that place that reconnects you to your nature, close to your nature. It doesn't reconnect you to your nature. Deep sleep does not put you in touch with the self. It only gives you a glimpse of your nature. And we will talk about that soon. Now, what wakes you up from deep sleep? Why does a jiva wake up? Don't say alarm clock, please. That's a joke, but Huh? Yeah. Did you notice, so the question was, what wakes you up in the morning? Did you notice that, what do you do when you wake up? Do you just sort of wake up and just mindlessly go like this?
No, you start to think.
Huh?
The mind.
What?
You wake up because your mind is boring you. You start to
Who are you? So in other words, you go fully active mode, right? So what do you do when you wake up? You are fully into it. That means you want to continue doing those things that bring you more punya and papam. Now that same karma that wakes you up is the same karma that wakes you up in a new body. The only difference is every day you wake up in the same body for about 90 years. When that body is no longer capable because it's part of the system, it has to go like anything else. The flower tree has to fall eventually. The body has to fall eventually. Same thing. I have unfinished business to do. I've been traveling for so long here. I heard so many people. I've helped so many. I want return on my investment. And for that, I want. And I need a new body. And for that reason, when the body falls, I still want my ROI, and how do I express that ROI, and how do I receive it? Through a new physical body. What do we say about the physical body, the gross body? What's the locus of experience? Where do I find you, the traveler? I find you in your physical, your Annamaya Kosha. Verse 56. Why the Vijnana Maya is not I. So, Ataha na ayam paratma syad vijnana maya shabdataha vikaritvat jadatvat cha parichinatva hetutaha drishyatvat vyabhicharitvat na anityaha nityaha ishyate. So it's subject to change. One of those three rules. So if you look at your intellect, it's like a kaleidoscope. You put on your eye, a kaleidoscope, and then you turn the thing, and then it's just constantly like one thing comes up and another thing comes up. So your Vijnana Maya is like a kaleidoscope. It constantly changes roles that it takes on. And each one of those roles are different. So if one of those roles was you, then when the doer, for example, the karta or bhokta or pramata, I haven't put here. Knower actually is pramata. Pramata is the knower. Okay. So again, if one of the roles that you take throughout the day, as a mother or an employee or a husband or a teacher or a student, if one of those roles was you, then logically, when the role leaves, my awareness should go right along with it. So that's the first argument why you cannot be the Vijnanamaya kosha. How many identities have you already taken? Wow, so many, right? And yet, throughout all of that, there's one consistent awareful presence. So how many roles does Vijnanamaya kosha mainly take? 3 roles. And they are doer, knower, enjoyer. Can you relate to being the knower? You know what the knower is? The inquirer, the thinker. Enjoyer, we all know this, very simple. And the decision maker, the executor, we all also relate to this. So whenever I am a decision maker, not I. Whenever I am a enjoyer, not I. Whenever I am a knower, inquirer, thinker, not I. Whenever I am analyzing something, not I. It's more like the intellect is analyzing. So now, how could you help yourself? Just think about this in real life. Instead of saying provisionally, I am thinking, what could you say instead?
Thinking is happening.
Thinking is happening. Good, I love that. Anything else? What's your language? Instead of I'm thinking, because we all say this, I'm thinking. Yeah. Thinking's going on. This is a function of the Vijnanamaya or intellect. This is a function. Okay? So, intellect is subject to change, and then it continues and says, Vijnanamaya is not self-effulgent. It's inert. Now, another word for self-effulgent is it is not independent. When it says self-effulgent, that means it doesn't have its own awareness. It borrows the light of awareness from you. Or it's inert, jadatvat. So let's look at the word two standpoints. Your buddhi is inert. What does this mean? You tell me. When I say your buddhi is inert, how do you explain this? Super, right on. It's made of 5 elements. It's made of matter. It's made of subtle elements. It doesn't matter. It's made of 5 elements. In fact, that's a good argument, isn't it? All of these koshas are made of 5 elements. If it's made of 5 elements, it is not I. So we relate to this elements like very solid, but your thoughts too are just matter, just subtler matter. So what are we like playing with all our life? 5 elements. We're just like little, children, just play with my thoughts. And there's a thought, oh, let me create, oh, I'm afraid of thoughts. Oh, this is a happy thought. That's all we're doing. Shuffling with stuff, elements. I mean, this is very easy. You have pen, you're shuffling with pen, I can see it. But your thoughts is exactly like this pen, just subtler matter. Science doesn't deal with it, of course, but Vedanta does. But it's 2 elements. In other words, you take 5 elements, and for a beginningless time, all I've been doing is just taking 5 into billions and billions of combinations and reshuffling them. And that's all what every single lifetime is, just that. Reshufflement of 5 elements. And your 5 elemental ears, hear that and you respond back. So we're just sharing combinations of 5 elements to each other. So remember a time for me now when your buddhi your intellect was very sharp and attuned with what needs to be done. It was just operating very strict and sharp. Can you remember that time? Okay. Now, Can you also remember a time when it was dulled out and it was just slow? Okay, it was slow. So we all can remember this time. So now, while this intellect was sharp, has it made awareness sharp? No, it made the mind sharp, not awareness. There was awareness of a sharp mind. Like the light that just shines and reveals conditions of the mind. Intellect is not self-effulgent. So a better way that I put it is it doesn't have its own, it's not independent. It depends upon things. How does the intellect depend upon things? Tell me when I say that. What does it mean to say intellect depends upon things? Because remember those 3 golden rules? Anything that is dependent upon something else is not the self. Question for you, and then we'll break. What does it mean to say the intellect depends upon things?
Depends on the waking state.
Super. Where is it? Depends on the, repeat?
Waking state.
Depends on the waking state. When there's deep sleep, it's not there. It needs to wait for the waking state to come. Only then intellect can go, here I am. Another reason, another good example.
Prana depends on the prana. For the
Excellent. Depends on the prana. You again, do this little, take a deep breath, hold it. No, it was just, from yesterday. You're already falling asleep. Again, if you were to do that, then you would see the ability to think would lower itself. What else does it depend upon? Coffee. Yeah.
it needs an object of.
It needs an object to entertain it.
Yeah, otherwise it isn't.
Otherwise, it's got nothing to entertain. Super. You see this? How many things is dependent upon? Purnamadav, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate, Purnasya, Purnamadaya, Purnam eva avashishyate. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shantihi.